It's Bottomline, coming up this Tuesday, as the government of retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio celebrates 1 year in office. One-time Minister of Information, now Communications Director of the National Grand Coalition, Dr. Julius Spencer, and Member of Parliament.
Hello and welcome to Bottomline, our Enlightenment campaign talk show. Tonight we shall be weighing the highs and lows of President Bio's first year in office. As we all know, or better still, as you will know, on the 4th of April 2018, after a heavily contested runoff presidential election, Brigadier retired Julius Maada Bio was declared winner and sworn in as the new president of Sierra Leone. A lot has happened since then, and we are here tonight to gauge his administration 1 year on. With me in the studios are Mohamed Rahman Soare, Minister of Information and Communications, Dr. Julius Spencer, Director of Communications, National Grand Coalition NGC Party, and the Honorable Abdul Kagu of the Opposition All People's Congress. Joseph Ibenda Kapua is my name. You can also be part of this program through our Facebook page, SLBC TV Channel 31, or you can send messages by SMS to 0300222639. The number again, 0300222639. This is Bottomline.
Kaku of the Opposition All People's Congress joins Minister of Information and Communications Mohamed Rahman Soare to weigh in on the strides by the new direction government after 1 year in office. Join your host Joseph Ibenda Kapua as he digs deep to get the views, opinions and suggestions from across the political spectrum on Bottomline this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on SLBC, the nation's public service broadcaster. You can also catch us on Facebook.
Welcome back. Let's first recall how it all started with the declaration of the results and the winner by the Chief Electoral Commissioner and National Returning Officer of the National Electoral Commission, Mohamed Mfa Ali Kamte, and subsequent swearing in. Take a look.
It's Bottomline, coming up this Tuesday as the government of
in exercise of the powers conferred on me as National Returning Officer by sections 52 subsection 2 and 94 subsection 4 of the Public Elections Act 2012, Act number 4 of 2012, I hereby certify that Bio Julius Maada, having polled 1,319,406. 1,319,406 of the valid votes cast in the 31st March 2018 presidential election runoff has been duly elected President of the Republic of Sierra Leone.
Julius Maada Bio, do hereby, in the name of God, swear that I will at all times well and truly discharge the duties of the office of the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone according to law, that I will preserve, support, uphold, maintain, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Sierra Leone as by law established, and that I will do right for all matters of people according to law, without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. So help me God.
Let's get started, and I will start with you, the Minister of Information and Communications, Mohamed Rahman Soare. You were elected, or your government, the government of Sierra Leone, led by President Julius Maada Bio, was elected into office a year ago. What thoughts and emotion come to mind when you think of the announcement of your winning the elections?
My former professor just asked me while the swearing-in ceremony was first when the declaration of His Excellency Brigadier Julius Malabi was made, and then the swearing-in ceremony. He asked me just before you asked this question, how did you feel? What thoughts were going through your mind? He asked me whether it was the happiest day in my life. Of course it was the happiest day in my life for several reasons. One of the happiest days in my life for several reasons. One, we believe that Sierra Leone truly, honestly, and sincerely deserved a breath of fresh air. We believed President Biu had sacrificed for Sierra Leone. He has stood in for Sierra Leone. At the time, this country, at the time, many Sierra Leoneans were running for their lives. You know, during those impeccably dark moments of the war, during the turbulence of the war, he served as a soldier in war-torn Liberia and on the battlefields in Sierra Leone. So he has always had Sierra Leone at heart. So giving him the presidency, his winning the presidency, ushered in a new reality that Sierra Leone again was on the ascendant.
All right. Now, what were your visions, you know, in 12 months ago, if you like, and have you met them or perhaps even surpassed them? We're talking about your accomplishments.
Well, first, let us set the context. I mean, it's going to be very unfair for me to veer into that if we don't get the context right. When President Biu campaigned, then candidate Biu, he campaigned on the platform of change. He laid bare and clear particular signposts that he will pursue once elected as president. I mean, he continuously harped on the issues on corruption. He did say corruption was choking the national development process. Corruption was becoming a binding constraint in our national development aspirations, and therefore vowed to fight it tooth and nail once elected. We have seen him make very scrutinous, very rigorous, and very robust efforts to fight this menace. In less than 1 year in office, the Anti-Corruption Commission, led by no-nonsense Anti-Corruption Commissioner, has been able to recover in excess of over $1 million, which the President has graciously allocated or ring-fenced for the construction of a medical diagnosis center, which will now enable Sierra Leoneans from all walks of life, irrespective of their stations in life, their poverty or wealth status, would have an opportunity to go to those diagnostic centers. You know, there are many of our compatriots who can't afford to fly to India, to Germany, to Ghana, like the ruling and upper class normally does. So President Biu is definitely a people person, and he believes, but for the grassroots, his presidency may not have happened. So he wants to do everything to satisfy the grassroots amongst other Sierra Leoneans. So apart from the recoveries, you could see there is currently a new anti-corruption bill before Parliament. The new anti-corruption bill is more stringent. It does not give corruption a breathing space. It wants to make it unfashionable, untrendy, right? By policies such as more stringent punishment for convicted corrupt officials, including ban from holding public office for specified periods of time, increased penalties beyond recovery. It also now gives the Anti-Corruption Commission powers to ensure that if organizations, to take preemptive steps to prevent organizations from entering into bad deals that will not serve the best interests of our country. Of course, we're all following. Thank you very much, I must say, for carrying, for beaming to our homes the deliberations at the Commission's live. I mean, very rattling revelations are coming out in the Commissions of Inquiry. Very startling revelations of how monies were fleeced over this country at the time we needed it most, how monies disappeared into bottomless private pockets. All of these revelations are coming out at the commissions. This is part of President Biu's commitment to ensure that Commission is dealt a lethal blow. It is choked in much the same way as it has choked the development process. We want to starve the corruption of much needed oxygen to survive. Apart from the fight against corruption, you see during the campaign also, President Biu committed to introducing a free quality education. But many at the time dismissed it as a distant dream. You know, I had members of the opposition then say, who's already put the money? Where will you get the money to fund the free quality education? But being the President Biu that he is, he thinks through his every action, being the very measured and methodical person he is, we had done the calculations and we had earmark the various sources of funding. We even disclosed that in the New Direction Manifesto. So 1 year on, we have been able to launch and implement a very ambitious free quality education program, which has ensured that we have paid for all pupils in public schools, in government-assisted schools across the country, right? We did not only stop at paying tuition fees, we have also provided core textbooks, 4 in the case of JSS and 2 in the case of SSS, together with exercise books. This is the most ambitious educational intervention done by any government in our 58-year history as a nation.
All right, I'll come to you, Minister Radu, sorry. But let me cross over to Dr. Julius Spencer. From the perspective of the National Grand Coalition or the NGC, what do you see as the, if you like, biggest accomplishments since the election of President Bill?
I would say the free quality in quotes education is a step in the right direction. I would say also the anti-corruption drive is a step in the right direction. But there are challenges which need to be acknowledged and be dealt with. If we take the education, for example, in my view, in our view, education cannot be sorted out in this country if we don't have a very radical approach to it. The things have gone so bad that just doing the normal things will not solve the problem. I was reading an article by a Nigerian who was reflecting on the Chinese attitude and what they are training their kids for. Training them for the future. Unfortunately in Sierra Leone, we are training our kids for the past, not even for the present. I'm very serious. How many schools, let's start at university. How many university students can do computer programming? How many of them can even do basic word processing? The future is computer. The future is technology. The future is creativity. We have a problem in this country where the majority of people cannot think creatively, which is why you see people selling all over the place, because they see somebody selling shoes here, they think that's the only way you can get money, so they also start selling shoes. Somebody starts selling shoes on one street, before you know it, the whole street is full of people selling. Because as Sierra Leoneans, we have not been trained to use our creative intelligence. We need to look at issues like that. For me, we should not even be talking about spending so much money on textbooks these days. The internet is a huge resource. You can get all kinds of information there. We should be training our kids to use those resources. About 20 years ago, I went to Boston University on sabbatical from the University of Sierra Leone. The director of the College of Communication said to us on a seminar, they train their kids for the future. They project what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years and train their students to meet those challenges. But we are not doing that. We are just repeating what we were taught when we were in school. Rote learning is the order of the day. Kids are not allowed to explore. Even in university, it is rote learning. The lecturer delivers notes to the student that they go and cram and come and repeat. That is not education. So we need to have a radical rethink of the education sector in this country. Yes, providing access to kids is good. Paying their tuition is good. Giving them textbooks for now is good, but we need to think beyond that, way beyond that. Otherwise, we are not really going to achieve anything. If we take corruption, yes, fine. But so far, the majority of people that are being brought out of the woodwork are from the past regime. I'm waiting to see what will happen with members of the current regime. Whether things have really changed and they are not going to be involved in corruption, or if they do, they are going to be brought to book. We have to see that. It is easy to deal with the members of the past government. That is easy. But when it comes to members of the current government, I know that some officials, yes, have been being brought to book. But it needs to be taken very seriously. I may be wrong, but I hear that President Bio has warned his ministers and all of those that if they get involved, nobody is going to protect them. I hope that is what it is going to be, so that we actually clamp down on corruption. But the new legislation being proposed, government should be careful. Let us not give one individual...
You mean the amendments to the SCR?
Exactly.
The proposed amendments.
Yes, let us not give one individual or one institution too many powers. Because when that happens, you have despots arising. So, then those powers can be misused. Today, maybe Ben Kefala is a good gentleman, he's trying to do the right thing. But we don't know what will happen in 10 years' time. Who will be the anti-corruption commissioner? Who may not be thinking along those lines and use it for ulterior motives. So we need to think through very carefully. And they say that when you are creating laws, you are a lawyer, so you know. You do not create law just for today. It has to project into the future so that it is done in such a way that it doesn't come back and be counterproductive. When you create law for a specific situation, a lot of the time you find that it ends up...
Is that the case, do you think?
I don't know.
Or it's just a general caution?
It's a general caution.
Oh, all right.
That is
okay.
a general caution with the proposed bill. I've read it and I have doubts about some of the proposed amendments. Particularly the one about banning people from holding public office. There are thoughts flying around that this is simply trying to target members of the previous government of the former ruling party to prevent them from being able to hold office in future. Now, we are a commission of inquiry.
That's speculation, you may want to say.
Yeah, it is speculation, but a commission of inquiry is not a court of law. We have all been told that. But they're going to produce a report. Government is going to produce a white paper. We know what has happened with government white papers in the past. And it is that white paper that is going to be implemented. Now, we have to be very careful. I always say to people in power that you are not going to be in power permanently. That is something the APC forgot. Most of them forgot that they were not going to be in power permanently, and they were doing things as if they are going to be there forever. Now you have to be aware that whether you like it or not, you will either leave power or power will leave you one day. So you have to ensure that whatever you put in place will be protective of the ordinary citizen, because one day you are going to be an ordinary citizen yourself. Ask Ernest Kuruma how he's feeling today. If someone thinks he did.
Let me invite the Honorable Abdul Kuruma of the Kagbo, Abdul Kagbo. Of all people, I should not forget the name Abdul Kagbo, from the Opposition All People's Congress. Talking about the accomplishments, if you like, the achievements of, or the successes of the President Bio's government 1 year on, from the position of the All People's Congress. What areas would you point at as achievements made by the current government?
Firstly, I would want to congratulate the President for having spent 1 year in office. I would also want to congratulate the SLPP party for having led this country for 1 year. Interestingly, when I was invited to this program, I was told that I was going to share podium with the Minister of Information. What ran into my mind is that I am going to come across words like bottomless pockets. I am going to come across words like resuscitation. I am going to come across words like mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and all of this. But when you give the minister the opportunity to tell the public as to what the achievements of the president are, it did say that the president waged a war against corruption when he was campaigning. He promised the people of this country that he was going to fight against corruption. The minister had every opportunity to have elucidated further on the other promises made by the president. Instead, he only spoke of corruption and went to free education. I want to remind him that the president did not only...
We'll come to, you know, the UCIC.
Yes.
From your perspective,
yes,
as a party.
that is what I'm doing. I'm making my own analysis, but my analysis are contingent on the statement he made.
Oh, let's hear them.
Thank you very much. The mere fact that the president waged war against corruption he waged war against poverty, and he waged war against indiscipline when he was campaigning. These are the three wars he waged. And when the minister was told, he only spoke of corruption, meaning he has considered that much is not done about poverty, the fight against poverty, and much is not done about the fight against indiscipline. But quite apart from that, what is most disappointing is that I need to confess that the minister is hardworking. I have seen him up and down trying to succeed in his office. I have seen him trying to institute one or two things, trying to sell the government. But again, I want to remind him that these are the same roles his predecessors played whilst they were in office. They never wanted to see their government fail. They never wanted to see lapses in their government. Some of them, with their sweat and blood, did everything humanly possible to let the previous government succeed. And that is what he is doing. What is most unfortunate and becoming a habit in our country is that when somebody has served this nation judiciously, you just call the person names and yampi.
Honorable, we'll come to that. Again, I have to, I'm directing the discussion, and I think I have to bring you into context. We are looking for the time being at the successes, if you like, achievements. If there are no achievements, in your view, you can state those. We'll come to the challenges that you started.
Of course, there are successes.
Let's hear them.
I have always said that you will only progress when a member of APC stands unhesitatingly to point at the good of SLPP, or when a member of SLPP stands unhesitatingly to point at the good of APC. That is when our nation will progress as a nation. But unfortunately, I have never have I had any government official, I have never had one said any good thing about the previous government. But let me commend the president. The mere fact that pupils are no longer paying tuition fee is a plus to the government. The mere fact that they are not paying tuition fee is a plus to the government. And of course, you've heard also about the resuscitation of the Premier League, which was in existence about 3 or 5 years ago. That also is a plus to the government. And it does not make me a criminal to say good things about what the achievements of this government is. It does not make me a criminal. And it does not make anybody a criminal to say good things about what the previous government got right. You see. So those things, we are quite on track. You understand? But again, I want to say, in as much as they are on track, there are similarly challenges on those achievements. One, let's look at the free education. In as much as I have commended the president, I want to state here that clearly that education in Sierra Leone is not free, because there are charges you have to pay. Parents, we are paying over 100,000 euros, quite apart from the fact that their tuitions were subsidized for by government. So meaning, you, the parent, would pay the extra charges, you would buy uniforms, you will buy shoes, and you will do other things. But notwithstanding, again, I commend the government for paying the tuition. But to say this is free education, no. This is the same kind of education that is practiced in the Banjul, Gambia, wherein fees are not paid by parents, but all other things are taken care of by them, the parent. The government pays the fees. Free education is practiced in Ghana, where the government takes care of uniforms, the government takes care of shoes, school bags, and all of those things. That is free education. And quite apart from that, free education, the name free education is not a novelty to Sierra Leone. Immediately after the Ebola scourge, when our GDP contracted to minus 20% as a result of the twin battles, the Ebola and the declination in price of iron ore, when our economy deteriorated the most in the history of Sierra Leone's economy, immediately after that, we saw the previous government paid all tuition fees as it is happening now. They paid tuition fee for every student from primary to senior secondary school. A budget of 67 billion leos was paid. We saw where external examinations fees were paid for all students who were subject to external examinations.
So what I think one thing we've agreed on, irrespective of the fact that similar thing was done in the view by the previous government, is that education generally is a plus to this government. Like you also mentioned, Dr. Spencer mentioned the drive to address corruption as well. Okay, we'll come to the downside of all of these things you are pointing out. So apart from education, or is it the only area you would point at the moment as tangible scores? I mean, this is from the perspective of the opposition.
I share a view with Dr. Spencer. You know, he's a man I have enormous respect for. He has served this nation as a minister. And when the previous government succeeded his government, they treated him as a statesman. You know, no names were given to him. You know, and he was even given more opportunity to serve.
You should be smiling, Dr. Spencer.
Yes.
Dr. Spencer can't smile. That is not true. You know that is not true.
Yes.
Ask him about the 50th independence anniversary.
I'm coming. The mere fact that he was given an opportunity to serve the previous government means to a large extent they had reposed confidence on him. But that is not the subject matter. Let me go again to the subject matter. You see, you find out that when you give the minister an opportunity to talk on the successes of the government, he always spoke on education and corruption.
Would have gone on forever.
He always spoke on education and corruption. He spent all of his first half talking on education and corruption. That tells you those are the two areas. Even in corruption, I share the view of Doctor. Because you cannot fight corruption, you cannot be serious in the fight against corruption when you go against opposition member. It is sweet.
All right. I think
but the fight against corruption is more serious when you take it to those whom you danced with during the campaign session, those whom you campaign with, those whom
even without evidence.
I am not saying without evidence, and nobody can tell me that this one here there has never been a corrupt case. Okay. Nobody can tell me that.
I see your point. But then the Honorable Minister,
yes.
You're listening to Dr. Spencer and the Honorable Abdul Kago.
Yep.
And again, you realize it's all about this education stuff that you mentioned. Yep. And we all know on the 17th of, I think, September last year, yes, that was the time the President launched his flagship, or one of his flagship programs. Yep. That's a free quality pre-primary and secondary education for government and government-assisted schools. Are you, as a government, satisfied with the progress made so far?
Yes, we are very satisfied. We are aware that this is a new program. It's very nascent. It's bound to have its challenges. We quite appreciate that. We are a learning administration. We will review it and take on board lessons learned, so that in the second year we could deliver a far better quality of education. We could address the challenges. Dr. Spencer made a very important point. He noted that we are educating our kids today for the challenges of yesteryears. Well, by and large, I mean, that is what it would seem. But you know, you have a president who has transitioned from analog to digital. President Bill is a digital president. In the 58-year history of our country, he has set up a directorate of science, technology, and innovation, because he honestly believes science, technology, and innovation are the ways of the world. We want to be able to innovate so that we can address current and emerging challenges facing every facet of our lives as a country. So, Dr. Spencer, your concerns are taken on board. You know, your position here takes me 25 years back when we were in university. We had one guy who was a typist. You know, all of us thronged to his place to have our dissertations typed. assignments and dissertations. That is a sad day. You look back to this day, you have university students graduating without basic computer skills and knowledge. These are the challenges this administration seeks to address head on. Just last year, we reimbursed over in excess of billions of loans in refund for university application fees. It is our desire as a government, and I'm sure by the time we approach next school year, we should be able to have students register online and have their course suits without having to pay for application fees. He and I don't know about the honorable, but we all know universities across the world now have access to e-libraries. A whole composite learning suite. My brother, all of us here knows that. So we want to be able to accede to that, in coming years. That is why President Bill has tasked the university. And I'm glad to report here that we currently have a team of ICT experts in country who have helped other countries to navigate their challenges with ICT learning and literacy, to be able to make their colleges and universities like others around the world. So they are currently here. They met with me yesterday. Prototypes are being developed, and it is hoped that we'll soon turn that corner.
I will
16 or so billion loans spent to refund, for application fees will go towards probably buy more furniture items in Furabe College where I went, which is in a dismal state of affairs, Jala University College, for whose convocation was just returned a few days ago. So these are challenges we want to be able to address. We are quite mindful of that. That is why the president has set up that directorate. The other issues you mentioned have to do with corruption. You do not...
Before we come to corruption, Mr. Minister, I'll have to stay with you on this. Because I know that the president has increased budgetary allocation to education, I think by 21%.
21%.
How sustainable is that?
That's very sustainable. I mean, when we started it, it's like when President Kennedy said in the United States that he would have to send Americans on the moon, into space. Many dismissed it as a pipe dream. He presided over that. The day Americans landed on space, everybody knew he was a serious person. When President Bill took a long shot at the presidency, he said he wanted to be president this time by ballots, not by bullets. Many felt it was a joke until he was declared winner by Mfa Ali. When he mentioned he will introduce free quality education, many felt it was a Hollywood movie until he introduced it in September. Right? It's here. So we are going to perfect it. We have allocated resources. We have explored other windows of funding just to make sure that free quality education is sustainable. For the very first time, again, in the 58-year history of our country, this is the only administration that has allocated 21% to education, which fulfills, the education for all call for governments to allocate 20% to education. So this is very sustainable. And you are talking about it in the context where the economy has literally fallen on our heads. Abdul does not like me saying this, Honorable Kambo does not like me saying it. But this is a fact. We inherited an economy that was in intensive care unit. As a government, we had to resuscitate it through mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yeah, we have transitioned it from the ICU. From the ICU, this patient is now stable and on the path to recovery. Recoveries don't happen overnight. Otherwise, it's not sustainable recovery.
All right, let me get the views of Dr. Spencer in respect of sustainability. 21% budgetary allocation to education, all of this as a new government in only 1 year. Moving forward, do you really think, looking at the economy and whatever, that this is something that can be sustained?
Well, I would even say that even more than 21%. If the government decides, which it seems to have decided, that education is a major priority, and those of us who have been observing the education sector in this country are pleased that the government seems to be focusing on education, because without quality education, we cannot go anywhere as a nation. We can have the best policies in tourism, we can have the best policies in whatever. If we do not sort out our education so that our kids are well educated and facing the challenges of tomorrow, this nation will not go anywhere. We are producing from primary school, secondary school, university graduates, half illiterates. Seriously, half illiterates. People graduate from university in subjects and they virtually know nothing, because a lot of them have gone through their education spying and cheating and so on. So they come out not knowing anything. How would this country have a bright future if those who are going to take over the jobs today do not know anything? So for me, it is important. In fact, it is the most important thing for government to focus on.
All right.
Education.
Yes. Do you share his view, Honorable Cabo?
Firstly, I want to let maybe the minister did not know about this. I want to let him know that most people that purchased form have not received their refunds. The funds have not yet been made for forms. Yeah, I'm just for my palm before coming here. And also, he said the budgetary allocation to education is 21%. I have read that budget extensively. I know every bit and pieces in the budget. Yeah. In the budget, I want to say the allocation of education is not 21%. In fact, let me tell you how budgets are made, are prepared. You have what they call wages and salaries. That is where you place the salaries of teachers, salaries of, in fact, in all of the ministry's budget, wages and salaries are not inclusive in the ministry's budget. They are separate, wages and salaries. So you cannot consider the monies you pay to nurses or doctors as part of the budgetary allocation to the health sector. No, it is under wages and salaries. What the government did so that it will look like the budget is 21% is to include wages and salaries of teachers into the budget.
The NGC is saying, in fact, if there is need for more, it should be in place.
No, I'm saying the 21% is just a supposition.
Okay.
It's not correct. Wages and salaries, unlike other ministries, there is no ministry in which wages and salaries are inclusive in their budget, unless education. You see? So that was just to let the public look as if, yes, this government said we are going to give 21% to education and they have succeeded giving 21%. It is not 21%. I want to be on record for that wages and salaries are inclusive. But let's look. Where was the budgetary allocation for education before 2007? Before 2007, the budgetary allocation for education was 3.7%, which was very, very small. What the previous government did, they raised the budgetary allocation for education from 3.7% to 15%. 15%. You just check how many percentage increments they did. So 15%. And quite apart from that, I have said, even in the midst of turbulence, you see, the economy of this country was seriously hit when we had the rebel war. That was in 1991. Our GDP contracted to minus 19%. It took this country 8 years for it to be, our GDP growth rate, for it to be resuscitated to more than 6%. 8 years. From 1991, when it went down to minus 19%. But look, our economy was referred to as the fastest growing economy before the Ebola scourge, coupled with the declination of iron ore price. It went unprecedentedly to minus 20%. Everybody would assume under normal circumstances or as per case study, it will take this nation another 8 years. But just within a year, it was resuscitated to 6.3% in the subsequent year.
My question is simple. Do you think the 21%, or we are saying not even 21%, but assuming that is the situation, do you think that is sustainable? That's the question.
It is not even 21%. Talk less of how it is sustainable.
Whatever
let me tell you,
at the moment,
let me tell you,
it's sustainable.
It is not. It is
progress.
not.
Then we have to move beyond that. But except if you want to.
Yes, I have comments.
Yes.
You know, basically my answers are not just premised on yes or no. Basically, yes. So I want to tell them. Basically, they say. If you want to know how beautiful your wife will be when she is old, you must look at the face of your mother-in-law.
And you will say that.
What I want to advise this current government. This current government has painted a picture as if the previous government was hell, was bad. But there are some good things in the previous government that this government needs to emulate. Forget about the bad things. Copy the good things. But don't create the picture as if every achievement made by the previous government was not necessary. This is Sierra Leone. Let me tell you, most of the ministers that are coming now, or let me say even His Excellency the President, had he asked President Kuruma, who has been in office for over 11 years.
You know, the Honorable, I had to interject, but actually, I know you even cautioned initially that this should not be a discussion about what this one did, you know, and what this. We are looking at the scorecard.
That is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, you cannot divulge.
Anyway,
but you cannot divulge it from previous achievements.
We will come to those, but I was looking at
to talk about APC.
We are looking at what has been achieved this far.
That is what I'm.
But anyway, we'll come to you again.
Can we give him time to come and talk about those achievements that led to their rejection by the electorate?
Dr. Spencer is a little uncomfortable with me. Maybe he wants to say something about how the program is being
When you are done,
but for me, as far as the discussion goes, we're looking at from the 4th of April when the president has
That is what I am doing.
And not so much about whether you've been appreciated before now.
No,
also.
I've just,
let's hear from you.
Let me help you, Joseph. In Creole, we say Pepe Atina Dognos. When the APC came into power, all their swan song was the previous government had done nothing. They had done nothing. Even all the things that they had laid in place amounted to nothing. They were even saying action better pass intention, etc., etc. Now the SLPP is back in power. They're behaving in a way slightly similarly. Now my advice to all of them is that government is continuity.
For sure.
In fact, we should stop talking about the APC government or the SLPP government. It's the government of Sierra Leone.
Thank you.
Whoever is in power, that is the government of Sierra Leone.
Agreed.
Your focus is on what is good for the entire nation. So the APC or SLPP should disappear after election. Now, the APC did some terrible things as far as bringing politics into everything. The SLPP is doing similar things. A lot of things now are being seen from a political lens. But if this country is going to progress, we have to move beyond that. The president has said that he's president of the entire nation, of all Sierra Leoneans. But that should not just be by word of mouth. It should be clearly demonstrated in action. The SLPP, before the APC came to power, had done some good work. The APC also did some good things. We can point to the roads, we can point to some things, although even the roads one can question in terms of the costs, but that is a debate for another day.
Please.
The SLPP is building on some foundations that have been laid even before the APC came to power. So let us look at government as continuity. I don't think that this is the place for us to be arguing about what the APC did, what the SLPP did, etc., etc. But let me make this point. The government has done well in a way on the macroeconomic policies that they have put in place. I would also say that the fact that our economy basically collapsed as a result of Ebola, we have to ask ourselves, why did Guinea and Liberia's economy not collapse as a result of Ebola, and they suffered the same thing? Now, if we look at the macroeconomic policies, if we look at the treasury single account, good up to a point. But it is now threatening the success or the continued existence of those revenue generating institutions. Because when money goes into the consolidated revenue fund, getting it out is not easy. And because the government has all of these priorities, the institutions that actually generated the revenue don't seem to be given priority. Now the government needs to take another look at that and work out a system whereby those that are generating the revenue can continue to generate the revenue because they are getting resources to do what they need to do. Right now, from what I hear, what is being provided is basically wages and salaries, etc., etc.
Okay.
But the other things that they need to do, some institutions are suffering as a result of that. In the short term, yes, what has happened is very positive. But in the long term, it may end up being counterproductive. But definitely government needs to control expenditure. And that is one way of being able to do it. But again, like I say, the government needs to look at how these expenditures are being disbursed to the various institutions, particularly those that are generating revenue.
All right, Doc, I will stop you there and see what our viewers are also saying on Facebook and other platforms. Just 45,000 added on teachers' salary. There's nothing like quality education in Sierra Leone. As for a parent whose child is attending the Salam Secondary School in Koso Town, my child is supplied with bags loaded with pens, geometry sets, books, 2 pairs of uniform, and a pair of shoes. So if the Honorable is saying that he has not seen such, please, sir, we have seen the free quality education properly. The people are willing to be patient with the government, but inflation and the dollars should be tackled in the process. The program is Bottom Line and it's coming to you on the SLBC television. You can join us on Facebook and also on, through SMS 030022 With me in the studios are the Honorable Abdul Kagbo of the Opposition All People's Congress, Dr. Julius Spencer, Communications Director, National Grand Coalition, and Mohammed Raman Soare, or Minister of Information and Communications. We are back with the program. I was just going to caution that if you also want to continue sending your text messages, please direct them to the number you see on the screen, 022-639-030-022-639. Now, Mr. Minister of Information, let's move to another realm. Maybe talking about gender equality, equity, women's empowerment, and the like. What steps within this year do you think that the government of President Bio has actually taken in the light of gender equality, equity, empowerment, and the protection of the rights of women?
Yes, one last word on the education bit. I needed to say this because education is not just about paying school fees and what have you. President Bio during the campaign committed to divesting himself as Chancellor of the university once made president. He made that categorically clear at the convocation in Jala that was his very last time he was doing it. Because he wants the university to recruit their own leadership based on merit, on competence, on research, acumen, on networks, to be able to ensure that the university contributes to fulfilling their mission. Right? So that is happening. The Universities Act is being reviewed right now. Apart from that, by next year, we're introducing a student loan scheme, which is what happens across the world. You know, we have mentioned sustainability. Everything cannot be free. Government wants, however, to ensure that anybody who is eligible and desirous of getting university education is able to do so through the university, through the student loan scheme. Talking about women and girls empowerment, yeah. Again, we have been very strong on this. President Bio, more than anybody else, has accentuated that in the history of our country. He is the only presidential candidate of a leading party that has had a woman as a running mate. In 2012, he ran with Dr. Spencer as former head of department, Dr. Kadisi, my former lecturer, as his running mate. Right? Had he won those elections in 2012, would have had a woman vice president. So President Bio has always been very committed to that. In his current cabinet, in the 58-year history of our country, again, this is the very first time you have a female Attorney General, a Minister of Justice. So we are not even just talking women, we are talking of women with the right timber and caliber to become anything in government. Right? Apart from that, we have passed legislations. Honorable Abdul Kagbo is aware that we currently have the Sexual Offences Act before them. That has been reviewed because President Bio and the government honestly believes that every Sierra Leonean kid should have an opportunity to grow up in an enabling environment and realize their fullest potentials. We have had issues of rape all around this place willy-nilly, out impunity. And when President Bio was inaugurated, he said he was waging a war against three things. One, against indiscipline. against poverty and against corruption. So this is part of the war against indiscipline.
Right.
So that's currently receiving the attention of Parliament. It's before Parliament to ensure that anybody who rapes anybody, right, goes down for.
Yes, and that's where I will invite Dr. Spencer. The government of President Bill, or the government of Sierra Leone, declared rape and sexual violence, a national emergency, we all know, and declared that even the punishment, for having sex with minors, there was life imprisonment. Are you confident, as a party, or maybe even as an individual, that these and other policies announced by the president can spur the action necessary, to tangibly impact, on the lives of women and girls?
No.
You could have given me time to land. I didn't land.
You will land shortly. You will land and land safely.
You land safely.
Let's get a perspective of the NGC.
The thing is that the law is not, in our own society, the law is not the most important thing. Because if it is laws, we have very good laws. It is the implementation that is the problem. And the issue of rape, we are hearing a lot about it now. It's not as if it started yesterday. It has been happening all the time in villages, in communities, etc., etc. It is not reported. In fact, the figures we are hearing even today are only a fraction of what is actually happening. Now we need to deal with the issues at that level, at the community level, through the chiefs, through the elders. We need a lot more education for them to understand the impact of rape on a woman or on a child. Most men don't. As far as they are concerned, they have fun, they enjoy themselves. What the impact on the woman doesn't matter. In some traditional societies, you rape a woman, you are forced to marry her. Imagine the girl or the woman who has been raped and then has to marry the man that raped her. Basically, she's going to continue being raped for the rest of her life. Now, so those issues need to be looked at. The Rainbow Center, we only have one. Those need to be empowered so that even the implementation of the law will be more effective if the Rainbow Centers can do their work. There is no DNA testing available in Sierra Leone. So you have families, their child is raped, the perpetrator goes and begs them, gives them small money, and even if you charge the matter to court, you cannot get. I
think you've made that point. We barely have a few minutes more to go, but I will invite the Honorable Ompis to have a say from the position of the All People's Congress. Insofar as the declaration of war on rape and sexual violence is concerned and the attendant measures put in place.
Firstly, we are against rape by every sense of the word. But equally, we even do not think that the procedure used by the president to fight rape is correct. Our argument was premised on the fact that, one, you do not need state of emergency to fight rape. Because in state of emergency, Section 29, subsection 6, subsection 10 of our Constitution clearly says that under state of emergency, the regulations you make only span for 3 months. So meaning the life imprisonment for whosoever rapes is going to only be effective for 3 months. If you rape after 3 months, you are not going to be life imprisoned again, just because regulations that are made under state of emergency don't last for more than 3 months, except they are taken back to Parliament. You could remember that we were emphatically saying, let us amend the Sexual Offences Act, Section 19 of the Sexual Offences Act, which changes that law. So to us, the procedure used, and also me, I'm of the opinion that basically the fight against rape has been selective. We have rape victims in Kailam. Well, she was raped by over 7 men. She could identify them, but nothing has been done to address that situation, you see. So to me, if we are serious with the fight against rape, we must begin to act.
And act now.
Begin to act.
All right, then. I think we have exhausted the time, but I will give you opportunity again. The minister said he did not land, but then you have opportunity again to see moving forward. At least we'll try to address some of the major achievements, if you like, of President Bio's first year in power. Now we are looking at another year. In fact, we've started that all together. Let's look at the vision. What do we expect? What is in the package, and how is that going to be opened up to the people of Sierra Leone?
Ordinarily, when my brother spoke about rape, I would have said, if this were a bilateral conversation between he and I would have said it's marks of sanctimonious hypocrisy. He is saying this in one breath, but he wants us to let the laws have retrospective effect. In his allegations that somebody was raped in Kailau, he wants the law to have retroactive effect, right? So that's why he's asking for, which in the context is not very logical. But again, this is this is Sierra Leone. Abdul has asked us to think like Sierra Leoneans, which many of us try to do all the time, but he's wearing APC lenses, even though I don't see him wearing glasses. Kindly let us talk about the government of Sierra Leone.
You are more of SLPP than...
Well, I'm SLPP, but when I come here, I talk as a minister of government. Okay, in this second year, we now look forward to a situation where the welfare of even pensioners will be improved, because the 2019 budget clearly, increased the amount pensioners earn from a very insulting 30,000 leons to 250,000 leons, right? 50% of minimum wage. Yeah, because President Bill honestly believes you could not have served your country at the peak of your energy, at the apogee of your life, you now become a beggar. So that is happening. Talking about other issues, we expect to spend more resources on, the games. There was a time in this country, Sierra Leone used to export footballers to other countries, right? That was how we generated the Mohamed Karons and all of them. They provided quite an opportunity to shine a light on Sierra Leone. They plied with the green, white, and blue flag abroad. They provided opportunities for... I'm afraid, Mr. Minister, I have to stop you there and invite Dr. Spencer with respect to the, the next year, if you like, of this president or this government. What do we expect to see insofar as the different layers, justice system and what have you? What is it that we should look forward to?
Well, I cannot tell you what we would expect to see. I can tell you about what we hope to see, what we would hope that the government would pay attention to. I just refer you to the biometer that IGR has released recently in collaboration with a number of other NGOs. And they say the 5 worst performing areas are executive authority, ICT, rule of law, justice and human rights, decentralization and security. I would hope that the government would pay a bit more attention to those, because these are based on the campaign promises the president made and an assessment of what has happened so far.
All right.
Also, let me just finally, we need to pay attention to nation building. Right now, we are several nations. In fact, the Sierra Leone is becoming more divided than ever before. The government needs to focus on nation building, getting people to work together, and getting people to be patriotic. Patriotism does not happen in a vacuum. Let me just give you one final example. Dr. Spencer,
I need to invite the Honorable Abdul Kago on this.
Yes.
We are actually run out of time.
Finally, we have to look at the MCC, the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Inflation in 2017 was 9%. In 2018, it went up to 11.5%. Now, as I'm speaking, it's 8.2%. People are suffering. Things are going up every day we sleep. And also, national cohesion is also a serious problem. We don't have open and fair recruitment, and even the dismissal, they are all politically motivated. And also, revenue. It's the most important. When this government came, they were announcing and publishing the revenues every month. But I will put it to you with every alacrity that since November, they have not even announced the revenue, which is against the very much section 6.
I think with that is not so much about what we expect to see, or in the words of Doctor, what we hope to see. It's more or less about what has happened, and I will just give that opportunity with 10 seconds, if you like, to the Honorable Minister to see. No, but with respect to how because that is more or less an allegation as to what has happened in your view.
I hope we will also have an opportunity.
Dr. Spencer and others here must have heard the word affirmative action. Affirmative action is a process to correct a historical wrong. He mentioned people who were dismissed from jobs willy-nilly. We have not touched one member of the public service I challenge anybody
I
to
have
bring
letters.
forth one
I
person
have
letters
that has been
from my
We'll
constituency.
continue.
I have
People will
letters
be
from
served
my
who are political
constituency.
We'll
appointees.
continue this
Yes,
discussion.
I have letters from my
We'll
constituency.
continue this
Police
discussion.
are
Honorable.
People are
These are
suspended
no civil
just
servant,
because
no
of
civil
WhatsApp
servant.
message.
No civil servant has been
WhatsApp
suspended
message,
or
people are
expired.
suspended.
I stand on that.
So just WhatsApp
I think
message.
Dr.
Would you
Spencer
kindly bring us
yes.
for other programs?
We'll have
as
a
subject
follow-up
matter?
program as far as this is concerned.
Bring us back.
Do you say yes?
That
What
is
are?
all.
But I think this has been a very interesting program. It should be, in my view. Yes, for all that we have time for. And the program, like I said, has been bottom line. I was going to say inside the media once I presented also. And it has been very worthy to have the Honorable Abdul Kagbo of the All People's Congress, Dr. Spencer of the NGC, and Mohammed Raman Sware of the Sierra Leone People's Party, and the Minister of Information and Communications, to talk about the first year of President Julius Maada Bio in office so far. I know we'll have more time to discuss, maybe in subsequent programs, how much we have made as a country within the first year of the president. But then if you missed part or all of this edition, we are back next Tuesday with a fresh edition of the program Bottomline, which was produced for today's edition, was produced by Tili Kuruma. With many thanks to all the technical crew, my guest, Joseph Egbenda Kapua is the name. Bye-bye.
Julius Spencer,
Joe,
a member of Parliament for Constituency 077, Lokomasama in the Putloko District, Honorable Abdul Kagbo of the Opposition All People's Congress, joins Minister of Information and Communications, Mohammed Gaman Sware, to weigh in on the strides by the new direction government after 1 year in office. Join your host, Joseph Egbenda Kapua, as he digs deep to get the views, opinions, on Bottomline this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on SLBC, the nation's public service broadcaster. You can also catch us on Facebook, SLBC TV channel 31, and on other social media platforms. Miss it, miss out. It's Bottomline, coming up this Tuesday, as the government of retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio celebrates 1 year in office. One-time Minister of Information, now Communications Director of the National Grand Coalition, Dr. Julius Spencer, and Member of Parliament for Constituency 077, Lokomasama in the Putloko District, Honorable
There are a lot of differences in people in the choices. Here comes the good news. At Yeni Restaurant and